Have you ever faced a moment where everything you tried began to crumble, where the path you thought was clear suddenly became filled with obstacles? Doors that were once open shut tightly, relationships faltered, plans failed, and you found yourself standing in confusion. Could it be that these difficulties are not meant to destroy you, but to guide you? Could it be that Allah is using these very trials to change your path and draw you closer to Him? We often see difficulty as a sign of failure, but in the wisdom of Allah, hardship can be a mercy. When you find obstacles rising one after the other, it may be your Lord protecting you from something you cannot see. Sometimes we chase after what we desire so strongly, forgetting that not every desire is good for us. Allah says in the Quran, "But perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you, and perhaps you love a thing and it is bad for you. And Allah knows while you know not." Surah Al-Baqarah 2:21-6. The difficulties you face may be Allah's way of redirecting you to something far better, something your heart will one day be grateful for. Reflect on the early days of the Prophet Muhammad, when he began to call his people to the worship of one God. Instead of acceptance, he faced mockery, insults, and severe persecution. The leaders of Quraysh, including his own family members, turned against him. The path of ease was blocked, but through those trials, Allah was preparing him for a mission that would change the world forever. Had those difficulties not come, the strength, patience, and reliance upon Allah that we witness in his life may not have been nurtured in the same way. Sometimes Allah allows us to face repeated setbacks so that we stop depending on our own efforts and turn our hearts completely to Him. We are reminded that success is not in our hands, but in His. The Prophet said, "Know that if the entire nation were together to benefit you with something, they would not benefit you except with what Allah had already written for you." Trimidi, true success lies not in achieving what we want, but in being content with what Allah decrees. There was a time when the Prophet lost his beloved wife Khadija radhiyallahu anha and his protector uncle Abu Talib in the same year, a period known as the year of sorrow. The grief was overwhelming and the path ahead seemed even more difficult. Yet, shortly after this painful chapter, Allah opened for him the door of Isra and Miraj, elevating him to the highest heavens. What appeared to be a season of unbearable loss was in fact the doorway to spiritual ascension and reassurance from his Lord. In our lives, when we face closed doors, it is easy to fall into despair. But sometimes Allah closes one door to protect us from harm and to open another that leads us to greater blessings. The Prophet taught us through his life that difficulties are not obstacles, but stepping stones. When he was forced to leave Makkah during the Hijrah, it seemed like a loss. Yet in Medina, Allah established a thriving community of believers and a sanctuary for Islam to flourish. The believer who understands this secret looks at trials differently. He sees closed doors as opportunities for growth, as signs that Allah is guiding him to something better. Allah promises in the Quran, "Indeed, with hardship comes ease." Surah Ash-Shahr 94:6. Every difficulty carries within it seeds of ease, but we must trust in the wisdom of the one who controls all affairs. During the Battle of Uhud, the Muslims faced a painful defeat. Many companions were martyred, and the Prophet himself was injured. Yet, even in that moment of loss, Allah was teaching valuable lessons of patience, unity, and reliance upon Him alone. The setback was temporary, but the lessons were eternal. So when you encounter unexpected difficulties, do not be quick to assume that your path is ending. Instead, open your heart to the possibility that Allah is reshaping your journey in a way that will bring you closer to Him. Strengthen your tawakkul, knowing that every hardship is a sign that your Lord is near, watching over you and guiding you with love and wisdom. The path may be difficult now, but if it leads you closer to Allah, then it is the most beautiful path you could ever walk. Have you ever felt a strange restlessness inside you, even when everything around you seems perfectly fine? Your life appears stable, your plans are on track, and yet your heart feels unsettled, as if it is searching for something more. Could this discomfort be a sign from Allah, gently guiding you towards a path you have not yet seen? Could it be that He is waking you up to a higher purpose that your soul longs for, even if your mind does not yet understand it? The heart of the believer is sensitive, and Allah often places within it a stirring, a longing, a quiet discomfort that pushes it to seek Him more earnestly. This restlessness is not a punishment, it is a mercy. It is a sign that Allah is preparing you for change, calling you to rise above the ordinary distractions of this world and focus your attention on what truly matters, your connection with Him. Allah says in the Quran, "Indeed, in the remembrance of Allah, do hearts find rest. Surah Arad 13:28. The discomfort we feel is often the absence of this remembrance, taking full hold in our hearts. Look at the example of the Prophet Muhammad before he received revelation. Although he lived among his people, his heart grew increasingly restless with the idolatry, injustice, and immorality surrounding him. This uneasiness drove him to seek solitude in the cave of Hira, away from the distractions of society. It was in that solitude, in the silence of his restlessness, that Allah chose to reveal the first verses of the Quran to him. His discomfort was not random, it was preparation for the greatest mission ever entrusted to a human being. Sometimes we may feel this restlessness as an anxiety that we cannot explain, a sense of dissatisfaction with our current lifestyle, or a growing discomfort with the sins we once committed without hesitation. This is a gift. It is Allah softening your heart, creating space for His guidance to enter. The Prophet taught us to make dua, O turner of heart, keep my heart firm upon your religion, because the heart is always turning, and when Allah turns it towards Him, it is the most beautiful transformation. Consider the time when the Prophet was offered the temptations of wealth, power and marriage by the leaders of Quraysh in exchange for abandoning his message. Though these offers may have seemed desirable to many, his heart found no rest in them. His restlessness with the ways of his people was far greater than any worldly offer. He chose instead the satisfaction of pleasing Allah, even though it meant enduring hardship, ridicule and persecution. This is the power of a heart that seeks only its Lord. There are moments when Allah allows worldly success to feel empty, relationships to feel distant, and familiar routines to feel meaningless. In those moments, we are being invited to realign our priorities, to reflect deeply, and to turn back to Allah with sincerity. The Prophet said, "Verily, in the body there is a piece of flesh, which if it is sound, the whole body is sound, and if it is corrupted, the whole body is corrupted. Truly, it is the heart." Bukhari and Muslim. When the heart feels unsettled, it is a sign that something greater is calling it. During the migration to Medina, the Prophet and his companions left behind their homes, businesses, and families. The comfort of familiarity was replaced with the uncertainty of a new beginning. Yet, their hearts found rest in the trust they placed in Allah's promise. The restlessness they once felt under persecution was transformed into peace when they aligned their lives with the mission Allah had destined for them. This is tawakkul, trusting that even when your heart feels uncertain, Allah's plan is unfolding in the most perfect way. So when you feel that restlessness, do not fear it. Do not silence it with temporary distractions. Instead, embrace it as a sign that Allah is drawing you closer to Him. Increase in your remembrance of Him, seek forgiveness, and ask Him to guide your heart to what pleases Him most. Let your heart submit fully to the one who knows it better than you know yourself. For the one who trusts in Allah, even restlessness becomes a doorway to peace, and every turn of the heart becomes a step closer to eternal tranquility. Have you ever witnessed doors opening in your life that you never even knew existed? Opportunities appearing out of nowhere, paths becoming clear after long periods of confusion, and people crossing your path at the exact moment you needed them most. Could it be that these are not coincidences, but signs that Allah is gently shifting your path, opening new ways for you, and guiding you to something far better than what you had planned for yourself? Life often feels like a complex maze. We plan, we strive, we knock on doors with all our might, and yet sometimes nothing seems to work. In those moments of frustration, we may feel forgotten, but in truth, Allah is preparing a better way, a way that only He can see. Allah says in the Quran, "And whoever fears Allah, He will make for him a way out, and will provide for him from where he does not expect. And whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him." Surah At-Talaq 65:2-3. This is the promise of the one who controls all doors, even the ones we don't see. Reflect on the life of the Prophet Muhammad when he went to Taif seeking support after facing intense persecution in Makkah. The people of Taif rejected him, insulted him, and even had their children stoned him until he bled. To any human eye, that door seemed firmly closed. But in that very moment of rejection, Allah was opening a far greater door, one that would eventually lead to the migration to Medina and the establishment of a strong and united Muslim community. When doors open unexpectedly, they often come after a period of hardship and patience. Allah tests His servants to purify their hearts and strengthen their trust in Him. Sometimes we think we know what is best for us, but Allah's wisdom surpasses all understanding. The Prophet once said, if you were to rely upon Allah with the reliance He is due, He would provide for you as He provides for the birds. They go out hungry in the morning and return full in the evening. Tirmidhi, just as the bird does not know where its sustenance lies but trusts its Lord completely, so too should the believer trust that every open door is perfectly placed by Allah's hand. Consider when the Muslims were trapped during the Battle of the Trench, outnumbered and surrounded by enemies. The situation seemed hopeless. Yet, at that moment of despair, Allah opened a door that no one anticipated. A sudden windstorm and fear struck the hearts of their enemies, leading them to retreat without a battle. What looked like certain defeat turned into victory by Allah's decree. This is how Allah opens doors when all hope seems lost. Sometimes, these open doors are not grand or dramatic. They may come quietly, an unexpected job offer, a chance meeting with someone who changes your perspective, or a newfound passion that aligns with your values and brings you closer to Allah. These are the gentle signs that Allah is crafting a new path for you, one that leads you towards His mercy. The Prophet said, be mindful of Allah, and Allah will take care of you. Be mindful of Allah, and you will find Him in front of you. When your consciousness of Allah increases, so too does His assistance. Even the journey of migration to Medina began with unexpected help. When the Prophet and Abu Bakr Daril were hiding in the cave of Thawr, the situation seemed dire, yet Allah sent a spider to spin its web and a dove to nest at the entrance, deceiving the pursuers. This small, seemingly insignificant act was one of the many open doors Allah created to protect His messenger and ensure his safe arrival to Medina. When Allah opens doors, it is often a sign of His mercy and His intimate involvement in your life. He removes obstacles you never even knew were standing in your way. He aligns situations perfectly in ways that no human effort could have orchestrated. But to witness these doors, the heart must be patient, the soul must be connected, and the mind must trust fully in His plan. So when you see doors opening where you never expected, pause and reflect. This is your Lord guiding you, answering your du'as in the way He knows is best. Strengthen your tawakkul, place your trust in His wisdom, and walk through those doors with gratitude and humility. For the one who opens doors is also the one who walks with you through them, ensuring that every step you take leads you closer to Him. Have you ever wondered why at times the things you once desired so deeply start losing their hold on your heart? The relationships you thought you could never live without begin to feel distant. The goals you once chased seem less meaningful, and your attachment to certain worldly pleasures starts to fade. Could it be that Allah is gently preparing you for something greater? Could it be that He is removing the distractions so your heart can turn fully towards Him? This world is full of attachments that tie us down: people, wealth, status, and desires. Often we don't realize how these attachments cloud our hearts and distance us from our true purpose. But Allah, in His infinite wisdom and mercy, sometimes begins to change our path by first loosening our grip on these very attachments. He allows us to taste their temporary nature so we may long for what is eternal. As the Quran reminds us, know that the life of this world is but amusement and diversion and adornment and boasting to one another and competition in increase of wealth and children, like the example of a rain whose resulting plant growth pleases the tillers, then it dries and you see it turn yellow, then it becomes scattered debris. Surah Al-Hadid 57:20. Look at the life of the Prophet Muhammad. In his early years in Makkah, he lost his beloved wife Khadija Ardil and his protector Uncle Abu Talib. These were people who gave him comfort, love and support. The pain of their loss was immense. Yet this detachment from the ones he held so dear was not a punishment, it was part of Allah's divine plan, preparing him for a greater mission and strengthening his reliance solely upon his Lord. When Allah begins to detach us from what we once loved, it can feel like a storm in the heart. But within that storm lies a cleansing. It is as if Allah is emptying your hands so He can fill them with something far more precious: His nearness, His guidance, His mercy. The Prophet said, whoever leaves something for the sake of Allah, Allah will replace it with something better. Musnad Ahmad. This is not merely a promise. It is a reality experienced by every believer who submits to the will of Allah with full trust. There were moments in the Prophet's life when he was offered power, wealth and leadership by the Quraysh in an attempt to stop his call to Islam. Yet he turned away from these worldly offers without hesitation, knowing that real success does not lie in what the world offers, but in what Allah grants. His heart was never attached to the glitter of this dunya. His eyes were always fixed on the pleasure of Allah and the everlasting life of the hereafter. You may find yourself in a situation where a career opportunity slips away, a friendship fades, or a long-desired goal suddenly becomes out of reach. In those moments, instead of feeling despair, reflect deeply. Is Allah freeing you from something that would have harmed your akhirah? Is He redirecting you towards something far better for your soul? The Quran says, and it may be that you dislike a thing while it is good for you, and it may be that you love a thing while it is bad for you. Allah knows while you know not. Surah Al-Baqarah 2:21-6. What you lose may be the very thing that was keeping you distant from your Lord. When the Prophet and his companions were forced to leave Makkah and migrate to Medina, they left behind their homes, wealth and families. Yet, in that sacrifice they found a new beginning, one that led to the establishment of a blessed community, the strengthening of faith and the spread of Islam across the world. What seemed like loss became the foundation of unimaginable blessings. The journey of detachment is not always easy, but it is filled with mercy. When Allah removes certain attachments from your life, He is not abandoning you. He is inviting you to anchor your heart solely in Him. This is the essence of tawakkul, to trust that His plan is always better than ours, even when we do not fully understand it in the moment. So when you feel the strings of this world loosening from your heart, do not panic, do not despair. Instead, fall into sujood and whisper to your Lord with full submission, "My Lord, I trust you. My heart belongs to you. Replace what I lose with what will bring me closer to you." For the one who places their full trust in Allah will never be left empty-handed. Allah's replacements are always better, always more beautiful, and always filled with His infinite wisdom and mercy. Let me ask you a question that reaches deep into the soul. Have you ever found yourself in a moment where, despite all the noise around you, your heart begins to whisper, calling you back to Allah? A moment where your soul craves suhood, where your tears fall before your Lord, not out of despair, but out of longing. Sometimes, this quiet pull is the clearest sign that Allah is changing your path, guiding you gently but firmly towards Him. In life, we often chase after worldly goals, becoming absorbed in pursuits that distance us from our true purpose. We seek wealth, status, comfort, and approval from people while unknowingly neglecting the one who controls all outcomes. But Allah, in His infinite mercy, never abandons His servant. When He sees us drifting too far, He places within our hearts a subtle yet powerful yearning for Him. This yearning is not ordinary. It is a mercy wrapped in a reminder that ultimate peace lies only in closeness to our Creator. Think about the time when the Prophet Muhammad was in the cave of Hira, alone, contemplating. The world outside was full of corruption and idolatry, but his heart longed for something pure. That solitude was not emptiness, it was preparation. Allah was calling him towards the greatest mission ever entrusted to a man. Similarly, when Allah changes your path, He often begins by turning your heart towards Him, creating a restlessness that only He can satisfy. Sometimes we do not recognize this pull immediately. We feel an unease with sins we once committed freely. We start to question our habits, our company, our choices. This discomfort is not punishment, it is purification. Allah says in the Quran, "But Allah has endeared to you the faith and has made it pleasing in your hearts, and has made hateful to you disbelief, defiance, and disobedience. Those are the rightly guided." Surah Al-Hujurat 49:7. When your heart begins to soften towards His remembrance, know that you are witnessing a beautiful transformation. Consider the moment when the Prophet Muhammad faced the loss of his beloved wife Khadijah and his uncle Abu Talib. The grief was immense. Yet in that very year, Allah gifted him the miraculous journey of Al-Isra wal-Miraj, elevating him spiritually, drawing him closer than ever to His divine presence. From pain came profound nearness in your own life. When difficulties strip away your attachments to the dunya, it may be Allah's way of preparing you for a closeness that is far greater than any worldly comfort. You may start waking up for tahajjud without anyone calling you. You may feel your heart tremble when you hear the haram being recited. You may find yourself weeping during suhood, feeling a sweetness you cannot explain. These are not coincidences. This is Allah pouring into your heart the light of guidance. The Prophet Muhammad said, when Allah loves a servant, He calls Jibreel and says, "I love so and so, so love him." Then Jibreel loves him and he calls out to the people of the heavens, Allah loves so and so, so love him. Then acceptance is placed for him on the earth. Baqi at Bukhari at Muslim. This love begins when your heart inclines more and more towards your Lord. As your heart turns towards Allah, you may notice that things you once feared begin to lose their grip on you. The anxiety of losing people, wealth, or opportunities becomes lighter because your trust shifts from creation to the Creator. This is the essence of tawakkul. Allah reminds us, and whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him. Surah At-Talaq 65:3. The believer who has tasted the sweetness of relying on Allah alone finds peace even amidst chaos, because his anchor is unshakable. Remember how the Prophet Muhammad, during the Hijrah, hid in the cave of Thawr with Abu Bakr Ari Inehe, while the enemy stood just outside. Fear could have overwhelmed them, yet the Prophet reassured his companions, saying, "Do not be afraid, indeed, Allah is with us." Surah At-Tawbah 9:40. This is the heart of someone whose path was aligned completely with his Lord. Fear melts away when you know Allah holds your destiny. So, when you feel this pull towards Allah, do not resist it. Embrace it with gratitude. Increase in your dua, your dhikr, your Quran, and your sudkhud. Let your heart pour out its secrets before your Lord, for He hears every whisper. The changes you experience within are signs of His love, signs that He is drawing you closer, that He is changing your path for your ultimate success in both worlds. Allow your heart to submit fully, and you will witness doors opening that you never even knocked on. Trust in His wisdom, rely on His plan, and know that in every moment of your journey, Allah is near.